It was a cold, foggy evening in the small village of Blackwood. The streets were empty, and the only sound was the distant hoot of an owl. Detective Arthur Lane sat by the fireplace in his cozy study, sipping on a cup of steaming tea. His sharp eyes scanned the newspaper, but his mind was elsewhere. He had been solving mysteries for over 20 years, but something about this quiet village made him feel uneasy. Just as he was about to retire for the night, there was a loud knock on the door. Startled, Lane set his cup down and walked to the door. Standing there was a young woman, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Detective Lane, please, you must help me," she cried. Lane invited her and offered her a seat by the fire. "Calm down, miss. Tell me what's wrong." The woman introduced herself as Margaret Hargrove. She was the daughter of Sir Edward Hargrove, a wealthy landowner who lived in a grand mansion on the outskirts of the village. "It's my father," she said, her voice shaking. "He's been acting strangely for weeks. He locks himself in his study, talks to himself, and refuses to see anyone. Last night, I heard him arguing with someone, but when I went to check, there was no one there. And tonight I found this." She handed Lane a small, crumpled piece of paper. On it was written, "The Crooked Hinge will reveal the truth." Lane frowned. "What does this mean?" "I don't know," Margaret replied. "But I'm afraid something terrible is going to happen. Please, you must come to the mansion and investigate." Lane agreed, and the two of them set off for the Hargrove mansion. The fog grew thicker as they approached the old, imposing building. The mansion loomed like a shadow, its windows dark and lifeless. Margaret led Lane inside and introduced him to the staff: Mrs. Jenkins, the housekeeper, Thomas, the butler, and John, the gardener. All of them seemed nervous and on edge. "Where is your father now?" Lane asked. "In his study," Margaret replied. "He hasn't come out all day." Lane knocked on the study door, but there was no answer. He tried the handle, but it was locked. "We'll have to break it down," she said. With the help of Thomas, they forced the door open. Inside, the room was in disarray. Books and papers were scattered everywhere, and the curtains were drawn. In the center of the room, slumped over his desk, was Sir Edward Hargrove. Lane rushed to his side, but it was too late. Sir Edward was dead. The detective examined the body carefully. There were no signs of violence, but Sir Edward's face was twisted in a look of sheer terror. On the desk, Lane found another note: "The Crooked Hinge will reveal the truth." Lane turned to Margaret. "Do you have any idea what this means?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know. But my father was obsessed with old family secrets. He often talked about a hidden treasure or a curse. Maybe this is connected." Lane decided to search the mansion for clues. He started with the study, examining every inch of the room. As he was inspecting the bookshelf, he noticed something strange. One of the shelves was slightly crooked. He pushed on it, and to his surprise, it moved. Behind the shelf was a hidden compartment. Inside was an old, dusty journal. Lane opened the journal and began to read. It belonged to Sir Edward's grandfather, who had been a notorious gambler. The journal detailed a series of bets and debts, as well as a secret deal with a local blacksmith. According to the journal, the blacksmith had created a special hinge for a hidden door in the mansion. The hinge was designed to be crooked, so that only those who knew its secret could open it. Lane's heart raced. He realized that the note was a clue to finding this hidden door. He gathered the staff and Margaret in the study. "Does anyone know about a hidden door in this mansion?" Mrs. Jenkins hesitated. There's an old legend about a secret room, but no one has ever found it. Lane showed them the journal and explained what he had discovered. Together, they began searching the mansion for anything that might resemble a crooked hinge. After hours of searching, they finally found it. In the library, behind a large painting, was a small, almost invisible door. The hinge was indeed crooked, just as the journal had described. Lane carefully opened the door, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. "Stay here," he told the others. "I'll go alone." He descended the stairs, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. At the bottom, he found a small, hidden room. Inside was a chest, its lid covered in dust. Lane opened the chest and gasped. It was filled with gold coins, jewels, and ancient artifacts. But there was something else, a letter addressed to Sir Edward. The letter was from his grandfather. It explained that the treasure was the result of his gambling wins, but it also came with a warning. The blacksmith who had created the hidden door had cursed the treasure, claiming that anyone who discovered it would meet a terrible fate. Lane's mind raced. Sir Edward must have found the treasure and realized the curse was real. That's why he had been acting so strangely. As Lane climbed back up the stairs, he heard a loud crash. He rushed back to the library to find Margaret and the staff gathered around the painting. The hidden door had slammed shut, and the crooked hinge had broken. "It's over," Lane said. "The curse is broken." Margaret looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Lane explained what he had found in the hidden room. "Your father was trying to protect you from the curse. But now that the treasure has been discovered, the curse is lifted." Margaret sighed in relief. "Thank you, Detective Lane. You've saved us." Lane nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. As he left the mansion, he glanced back at the crooked hinge one last time. Some mysteries, he thought, are better left unsolved.